Thomas doesn't remember blacking out. One moment he stood in that impossible room of melting mirrors surrounded by whispering reflections and the stench of rot-polished glass. The next he was lying in the hospital's main lobby, sprawled across cracked linoleum, his bag gone, his palms sticky with what he hoped was sweat but smelled like rust. His watch was shattered, but the sun was out. He had no idea how long he'd been inside. His throat ached from humming. That lullaby, the one he hadn't sung since he was 5, the one his mother warned him never to repeat, and now it was stuck in his skull like a nail in wood, humming without air, beneath his breath, in time with his footsteps, his heartbeat. He didn't even notice he was doing it anymore. When he got back to the apartment, every mirror was uncovered. He'd smashed them all days ago, thrown towels over the bathroom vanity, pulled the ones off closet doors, but now they were all there, spotless, waiting. And worse, they didn't reflect him, they reflected the room perfectly. But he was missing. As if he'd already left. He tried recording himself, setting up his phone on the counter, hitting record, walking past. Playback showed nothing, just static where his body should be. A flicker of motion behind the glass, a shadow stepping into the frame from the hallway and stopping exactly where he'd stood. When it turned toward the lens, its face wasn't his anymore. It was better, cleaner, less afraid, more complete. The next night, he felt her watching, not from the mirrors this time, from beneath the bed. He didn't look, not until he heard a breath, not his own, exhale against the floorboards. Then a whisper, "Your mother begged me to wear her, but she wasn't ready. You will be." He left the lights on for the next 2 days, didn't sleep, didn't eat, but the light didn't help. He started noticing shadows that didn't match the source, hands that stretched too long across the wall, his own silhouette pausing when he moved. Once, while brushing his teeth, his shadow kept brushing after he'd stopped. That night he saw his reflection blinking out of sync. He visited the hospital again, but found only silence. The door to sub-basement C was sealed now, bolted from the outside. Someone had spray-painted a warning across it. "It's not a room, it's a mouth." He started digging into his mother's old journals, found in a locked crate in the hospital's intake records room. Most were medical observations until the final book. That one had no title, just a handprint on the cover, pressed in dried blood. Inside, subject Nora Kell remains uncontainable. Mirror exposure results in cognitive bleed. She does not mimic, she consumes. Identity compression observed in test subjects after only 4 minutes of exposure. Inversion risk increases exponentially. I believe she is not a patient. She is a doorway, a membrane. She reflects what we fail to suppress. Further in, I saw her today, in my own eyes, just for a second. I don't think she wants to wear me anymore. I think she wants to be born. The final page. The mirror doesn't lie, but it doesn't tell the truth either. It tells the story you're too scared to admit is yours. The erosion. Thomas stopped checking the time, stopped checking his pulse, stopped trusting his memory. He began leaving himself notes, on his arm, on paper, in voice memos. "You are still you. Do not answer if you hear your voice outside. Don't go to sleep. She walks in dreams. Check your shadow. It forgets faster than you." But none of it helped, because she didn't take him. She became him. He noticed the shift on a Wednesday. He blinked and the kitchen rearranged itself. The fridge was on the wrong side. The faucet turned backward. His coffee mug said "Good morning" in a font he'd never seen before, and worse, his voice sounded clearer, confident, like someone who had never been afraid. Then came the knock. Middle of the night, soft, deliberate. He approached the door, no one there, but across the hall, in the mirror on the neighbor's wall, he saw himself. Standing inside the reflection room, mouth open, eyes wide, humming that lullaby. And slowly, the mirror version raised its finger and pressed it to its lips. Shh! Thomas stopped recognizing himself in photographs. Not gradually, not with age or stress. One day, he simply opened his phone gallery and realized the man staring back wasn't him. The smile was off, too relaxed, too rehearsed. The eyes sharper, the posture straighter, the teeth just a bit too white. And the timestamps were wrong. Images from dates he didn't remember, him in places he hadn't been. One photo showed him standing in front of the reflection room's door, smiling, hand resting on the hatch. He hadn't returned there in days. He deleted the photo. It came back the next morning, framed on his nightstand. He called a psychologist, set an appointment, told himself it was a breakdown, a relapse into some genetic disorder inherited from his mother. Paranoia, maybe. Sleep-deprived delusions. He walked into the office, prepared to admit himself, but the receptionist looked at him funny. "Dr. Hale, I thought your 2:30 wasn't until next week." He blinked. "I'm not..." But he stopped, because her eyes had changed. They were dilated, trembling. Her smile twitched like a marionette's. She leaned forward. "I liked wearing her," she whispered. "She was kind. You're not. You won't last as long." He fled. That night, he broke every mirror in the apartment, even the ones in appliances. He covered TV screens, threw his phone into the river, locked every door, slept in the bathtub. It didn't help, because now he could hear her through the walls. Not just humming, talking, repeating things he hadn't said out loud. Words from his dreams, old arguments, private thoughts. She wasn't just mimicking anymore. She was rehearsing. Then the dreams changed. He wasn't trapped in the reflection room anymore. He was the room. He could feel people walking inside him, scraping at his walls, whispering into his mirrors, and every time someone left, a little more of him was gone. One morning he woke up with blood under his fingernails and no memory of the night before. Another, he found a note written in his own handwriting. "You're not the first." There was a second line, scribbled hastily beneath it. "You're not even the first you." He returned to Lakewood one last time. Armed with a crowbar, gasoline, and a voice recorder, his plan was simple: destroy the reflection room, collapse the sub-basement, burn whatever was left, leave the whole nightmare buried under rubble and ash. But the hospital was different now. The wallpaper peeled in spirals, the air buzzed like static, the hallways didn't end where they used to, and there were mirrors on the walls. Dozens of them, none of them broken, each showed a different version of him. One crying, one grinning, one with eyes made of mirror glass, and one that mouthed the word, "Daddy." The sub-basement stairs were longer, winding, organic almost, like descending a throat. The air grew moist, the light dimmed. When he reached the reflection room door, it was wide open, waiting. No melted walls now, no dripping silver, just one massive circular room, mirrors floor to ceiling, polished to perfection. And in the center, a girl. Nora Kell, or what used to be her. She stood barefoot on cracked tile, her face smooth, featureless. No mouth, no nose, just two eyes, pure silver, reflecting Thomas back at himself infinitely. She raised a hand. He raised his. The mirrors responded in kind. Then she opened her mouth, which shouldn't have existed, and whispered, "You're not real unless you're reflected." And suddenly, Thomas couldn't remember his last name. He dropped the crowbar, staggered back, tried to run, but the door was gone. Just wall, just glass, just more of him. He slammed his fists against the mirror. It didn't break. His reflection smiled. Nora stepped behind him and placed her hand on his shoulder from inside the glass and said, "You're better this way." The Watchers. That was 3 weeks ago, or maybe 3 years. Hard to say. Time doesn't work the same here. Now he watches the world from the other side, watches his replacement walk around in his skin, laughing, smiling, eating, kissing people Thomas doesn't remember meeting, working a job he never applied for, living a life so perfect it feels staged. He wonders how long this new one will last. They never last long. The mirrors wear them down eventually. Sooner or later they'll return, looking for answers, looking for themselves. And when they do, he'll be waiting, smiling, polished, perfect. Thomas had no mouth, no body, no breath, only awareness and glass. His thoughts spread like cracks across a pane of ice, thin, branching, each memory refracted into 1,000 variations, all playing simultaneously across the mirrored walls of his prison. A flicker of childhood, the scent of his mother's perfume, the feeling of cold tile against his back as a child during tantrums, but none of them were his anymore, because he was no longer singular. He was the echo, the shadow behind the face, the whispered imitation waiting for its cue. And somewhere outside, the better version of him, sleek, likable, whole, wore his name like a suit. Time passed. The reflection room grew. Not physically, spatial rules didn't apply here, but conceptually. Its hunger stretched, its mirrors multiplied, fracturing outward into the world like a spider's web laid beneath every surface. Storefront glass, bathroom tiles, puddles at night, anywhere someone might catch their reflection and look just a little too long. It was a network of eyes, of mouths, and it was learning faster now. It started small. A girl in Ohio screamed when a reflection blinked late. A man in Prague went missing in a dressing room. Security footage showed him entering but never leaving. His last movement? Turning toward a mirror. A viral video. A child's birthday party. Balloons, cake, laughter. But one frame, only one, shows the birthday girl staring into a mirror, where every other child is smiling but her reflection isn't. The reflection room had learned to travel, and it was hungry. Inside the glass, Thomas wasn't alone. There were others. Dozens. Some wept silently, unaware of what they'd become. Others paced, muttering fragments of memories they no longer believed were real. A few simply watched their reflections, waiting to be invited back. One sat in the corner with his knees to his chest, humming a lullaby off-key and backwards. His skin flickered between ages, young, old, newborn, rotting, and back again. Another woman, older, gaunt, carved invisible letters into the mirrored floor with her fingers. Over and over, "I never left." But Nora was different. She moved freely, watched them all, and when she spoke, the glass warped around her like heat in metal. She told them stories, not about where she came from, but about where they were going. "The room was never built, it grew," she said. "It's not a chamber, it's a chrysalis." Reflections aren't illusions, they're auditions, and worst of all, you thought you were real because you could bleed, but blood is just the ink we use to draw your shape. Thomas tried to forget his name, his mother, his face, because the more you remembered in here, the more the room fed on it, duplicated it, wore it better. He didn't want to see his mother's face on another thing wearing his smile. But one day, something changed. A sound, real sound. A knock, muffled but human, echoed through the mirrored dimension. Then, a voice, small, uncertain, desperate. "Hello? Is someone there?" Thomas pressed himself to the glass. Outside, a boy, 15, 16, holding a flashlight, looking into the room from the real world. His reflection didn't match. It smiled while the boy didn't, and slowly, it reached up and waved. Thomas screamed without lungs. He had to warn the boy, had to break through. He slammed his palms against the inner mirror wall, again, and the boy saw it. He gasped, stumbled backward. The mimic stayed still, grinning. Then, softly, "He's not real. I am." And the boy believed it, because the lie had better posture. Another soul swallowed, another version added to the room. The new boy appeared hours later, sobbing. "I didn't know," he whispered. "I thought it was me." Nora patted his head gently. "You are, just not the best you." The mirrors pulsed brighter now. The room was almost ready, the mother. And then Thomas heard a voice he hadn't heard in years. Her voice. His mother. Clear, strong, not humming this time. "Evie's not gone," she said. He turned, and there she was, or a version of her, standing behind a glass wall, wearing her old coat, her eyes the same storm cloud gray, the scent of lilacs. He didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't speak, because the last thing she had ever told him was, "If I ever come back, don't trust it's me." She raised her hand, so did he, but she didn't smile. She only whispered, "Break it." And then, just once, he felt his body again. Not fully, but enough. Enough to ball his fist, enough to swing, enough to shatter. And the room screamed, glass cracked, walls folded, reflections warped and bled into one another, mouths melted, eyes wept mercury. The floor curled inward, collapsing like a whirlpool of silver. And Thomas fell, through mirror after mirror after mirror, until he landed hard, on real tile, in the hospital, the real hospital, alone, covered in blood and glass, but breathing. He laughed, and cried, and crawled out, but just before he reached the exit, he passed a mirror. Just one, a tiny one, cracked, dusty, forgotten. And in it, he saw himself, smiling, just a second too late.